it wasn't necessary for the Fed to put the money in the first place. We were going to get over the shock of 9/11. What did that money do? Banks had no place to put it. Manufacturing is going along okay. They don't need trillions of dollars. What are they going to do with it? The economy is running okay. They put that money into the economy. Nobody to lend it to, and then all of the people who said housing, let's build housing, condos, new neighborhoods. And not only private industry got into it. How many of you live in a township that has gotten into the business of building houses? How many of you live in the county where those county commissioners have started speculating, building houses and property? Well, that's where that money went. And all of a sudden, a person had a house that was worth $100,000, and the value of that house is the labor and the mortar and bricks that are in it. That's the asset value of that house. But with so much money floating around, the person said, oh, this house is worth $125,000. And the banks will lend you $125,000. Now it's worth $150,000. Now it's worth $175,000. Now it's worth $200,000. Now it's worth $400,000. And it still only has $100,000 worth of bricks and mortar. So where's the rest of that money? That money's floating around on the books of banks, and the Fed, so afraid that this economy is going to slow down, they start pumping more money and more money. Where's that money coming from? The lender of last resort? Who's borrowing this money? The Fed's telling our government we need to spark economic activity. But where's the spark? They're building houses that there's already too many of. They're building condos that only replace the existing apartment structure. Where is it going? How many of you drive up 71 and see that mall sitting there? What happened to Tri-County Mall? They started building malls to an extent, the money, and valuing these things beyond belief because there's somebody who is not the United States government that is throwing more and more money into this room. And it's going out these doors. The Constitution gave the responsibility for maintaining the economy of the United States to the United States Congress. In 1913, the Congress subcontracted that constitutional responsibility to a private corporation incorporated in Delaware. 1916, a crash. 1929, crash. 1970s, the oil. What was the Fed doing? Protecting us from what? They convinced Richard Nixon to get rid of the gold standard. The Brentwood system went kaput. So now the system is free floating. How many of you heard that brilliant conversation between Ron Paul and Bernanke? Ron Paul asked Bernanke, is gold money? Bernanke answered, no. Ron Paul said, you just overturned 6,000 years of human history. And he asked a more fundamental question. Are United States Treasury bills money? And Bernanke answered, no. Ron Paul, then why do people buy them? Bernanke, tradition. My father bought Liberty bonds, put 7 children through school. How many of you bought bonds? Reaction to the war. We bought those bonds because we thought that they were the best thing for this country. This country needed money. How better to get that money than from its own people? We don't borrow money from China, Japan. Why are we doing it? This is not the United States government doing this. This is the Federal Reserve System. The Constitution is clear. There shall be no treaties between the United States and any foreign government without the advice and consent of the United States Senate. Yet the Federal Reserve can make treaties with foreign banks that we are committed to follow. Quantitative easing is just not an American approach. This is a central bank approach. Here, England, Italy, Germany, Federal Reserve maintains the relationship with those foreign governments. How many of your senators gave the advice and consent for us to go along? Not one. The Constitution gives the control of our economy to the Congress of the United States. Abraham Lincoln. I was glad my previous speaker stopped with Andrew Jackson. Abraham Lincoln comes along, Civil War. Boston banks want to lend him money, 36%. That could determine the outcome of the Civil War. Lincoln went to the Congress and said, Congress gives you the responsibility. Article 1, Section 5 through 9. He went up to 10. Article 5 through 9 are the important ones. The Congress. Lincoln said, it's your responsibility. I'm not going to go borrow money and put this country in debt. Congress passed the Legal Tender Act of 1862. They started to print the United States note, our Treasury. We wouldn't borrow money from banks. We didn't go to the lender of last resort or first resort because we, the people of the United States, gave our Congress this responsibility. They passed the Legal Tender Act of 1862. We came out of that war. We bought all of the material necessary for the war, paid all the soldiers. There were no soldiers saying, where's my money? We paid the soldiers, we fought that war. We built a navy, we built an army, cannon. We fought that war, we wanted, he preserved the Union. At the end of the war, we're not in debt. And not only that, we had so much money floating around the United States, we did the most productive thing. We produced things. We started the Bureau of Mines. We started the steel industry. And Ohio benefited greatly from that. Transcontinental Railway. Higher education was free. Government invested in all forms of sciences and industry. And we kept that boom going. 1884, though, the banks challenged the Legal Tender Acts of 1862. It took them 22 years to come up with a challenge for the Congress of the United States taking its constitutional responsibility. The Supreme Court upheld it. What could they do otherwise? But Bernanke is an honorable man. The Fed is an honorable institution. And look at the great shape they've left our economy in. We're booming. Our children have no fear about having jobs when they come out of school. Higher education is so cheap, right, that our kids don't worry about the loans that they're going to have when they get out. The banks are so flush with money, right, that small businessman that wants to start a business has no problem borrowing money from his local and regional banks. They're not failing. They're not going out of business. Or are they? Or have we been left with a legacy of mismanagement beyond belief? Bernanke, when questioned by the European central bankers, said, I do not see bubbles. The European bankers said, you just had one of the biggest bubbles burst in the history of the world economy. Bernanke said, it's not the responsibility of the Federal Reserve System to see these balloons. What is their responsibility? Federal Reserve was created because we had this horrible system of boom bust between planting and harvest system, year after year after year. So somebody thought we could balance that out. But Bernanke, before the Banking Committee of Congress, said that it is the role of the Federal Reserve to prevent tailwinds. Is this an economic term, or is he a sailor? What is his responsibility? The responsibility of the Federal Reserve is supposed to be subordinate to the United States Treasury. Then what of Geithner? He also is an honorable man. We must judge those who run our major institutions based on the successes they've had. And surely you can see that Geithner has done for the American economy the same thing he did for the Federal Reserve Bank of New York. He ran it in the ground. Now, anybody who can do that twice is to be praised. Because these are honorable men. I want to go to the United States Senate to restore the control of this economy to the people's elected representatives. We did not elect the Federal Reserve. Bernanke doesn't feel like he works for us. We, the people of the United States, cannot give up control of our economy. Look what happened. We've done it, and that's where we are now. No more. We cannot do this any longer. And I implore you, do not be misled by being told that there's anything out there that we cannot do without. Don't tell that to people who went through the Great Depression, who went without everything except the care of their children, many of whom are in this room today. Don't tell me we cannot do without the Federal Reserve. Don't tell me that we cannot do without any one member of our Congress or our Senate. We, the people of the United States, have to take back control of our economy. And we can't do that while we're subcontracting it to honorable men. Thank you. Thank you.